Some hauntings, they really get into your skin. And the bellwitch, yeah, that one's right up there. We're really diving deep into this one, going way beyond just the surface level stuff.
It's the personal aspect that always gets me. This wasn't some spooky presence, just noises in the night. This was a family terrorized in their own home.
So picture this, right? Rural Tennessee, early 1800s. You've got the Bell family, John, Lucy, and their kids, including their daughter Betsy, just living their lives on their farm. But then things start happening. And it's not just like, a weird sound here and there. It escalates, like rapidly. They start hearing actual voices, even having conversations with this entity calling itself Kate. It's not long before folks are calling it the bellwitch.
See, that's where things take a turn. Most hauntings, you hear about unexplained events, maybe a cold spot, a glimpse of something. But the bellwitch, it wanted to talk, it taunted, it messed with them like it had some kind of score to settle.
And settle a score it did.
Yeah.
Especially with John and Betsy Bell. We're not talking Casper the Friendly Ghost here.
Yeah.
This thing was terrifying. It was relentless. I mean, just reading about the things that were supposedly happening to Betsy, physical assaults, her hair being pulled, slapped. Imagine the terror. A young woman back in the 1800s dealing with that.
It's straight out of some gothic horror story. The way it fixated on certain members of the family, it was personal and malicious, especially towards John Bell.
John's experience, it's truly unsettling. The stories talk about him being choked, thrown to the ground, his health just deteriorating, like something was draining the life out of him. You have to wonder, what could make something that angry, that cruel?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why? Some folks think hauntings, they come from unresolved issues, maybe a desire for revenge. If that's the case, what could John Bell have possibly done to deserve this? It's a question that's baffled researchers for ages.
And here's where it gets even weirder. While all this is happening to John and Betsy, Lucy Bell, John's wife, she's treated with a strange sort of, respect, maybe even affection at times, like the bellwitch was trying to be civil with her.
Right. Totally bizarre contrast, almost like it was trying to isolate John and Betsy, turn the family against itself. That kind of psychological manipulation, it's terrifying, leaves everyone guessing, wondering who they can trust.
And then there's the whole Andrew Jackson thing, which just sounds made up. But no, Andrew Jackson, the future president, hears about this haunting and decides he's got to see it for himself.
You gotta admire the guy's curiosity, or maybe question his judgment. Story goes, his wagon was stopped dead in its tracks on the way to the farm. His men heard the witch's voice. Some even say one of them was attacked.
I mean, obviously stories change over time, especially when you've got a big name like Andrew Jackson involved. But still, even the possibility of him encountering the bellwitch, wild. What do you think? Did Jackson actually experience this stuff firsthand, or was it just folklore, building up the legend?
Tough to say for sure. What we do know is that this story, it blew up, made the bellwitch a national sensation. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, it's a gripping tale, and it gets darker.
It does. This is where things take a turn for the worse, wouldn't you say? John Bell, after years of this torment, he dies. And what's truly unsettling is that it wasn't sudden. It wasn't like he just dropped dead one day.
No, not at all. It was like years of fear, of constant attacks that wore him down, made him vulnerable. And then there's the vial. That strange vial found near his body. Black liquid inside.
Makes you wonder, poison. You think the bellwitch actually poisoned John Bell? I mean, given everything else that happened?
Yeah.
It's not impossible. Imagine the effect that had on the family, on the whole community. This wasn't just a ghost story anymore. This was a full-blown tragedy.
And a stark reminder, if the stories are true, that this entity, it wasn't messing around. This thing was capable of real harm. Which begs the question, what happens next? Did the bellwitch just disappear, having accomplished its goal?
Well, it's not over yet. The bellwitch, it kept its promise. 7 years later.
It came back, just like it said it would. But something was different this time. The attacks stopped. No more physical torment. It was like, I don't know, like it had gotten what it wanted. Like it was satisfied, I guess. Content to just watch.
So not a tormentor anymore. But
yeah.
What do you make of that, this change in behavior?
It's interesting, some folks, they believe that things like the bellwitch, they get their energy from negativity, from suffering. Maybe all those years of tormenting John Bell, that's what it was after. And once he was gone...
They had no more fuel, no more power.
Right. Had to find a new way to exist.
So if it wasn't there to torment them anymore, what was it doing?
This time, it was all about communication. Cryptic messages, warnings almost, like it was trying to share something, some kind of knowledge. It's this part of the story that really gets people thinking, even today.
Okay, so we've got this shift in, the bellwitch's MO.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the lasting impact of all of this. The farm's gone, but the land is still there. And that cave.
The Bellwitch Cave. It's practically a paranormal hotspot. And what's really interesting is that it's not just about what happened back then, with the Bell family. People have been reporting strange things there for a long time. Weird noises, cold spots, feeling like you're being watched. It's like whatever haunted the Bells, it never left.
It makes you wonder, right? Is it just because people know the stories? Do they go there expecting something creepy to happen? Or is there something more? Something left over from all those years ago?
That's the question, isn't it? And that's what makes the Bellwitch Cave so fascinating. There's this feeling you get there, like an energy, it's undeniable, almost like the walls are whispering the story.
It'd be one thing to read about it in a book, but to be there, in that place, to feel it. You'd have to wonder if it was all true.
That's the power of the Bellwitch, It makes you think about what you believe. It makes you question things. Maybe our understanding of the world. It isn't complete.
It makes you question everything. Yeah, after everything we've talked about, all the research, the stories, the tragedy of it all, what do you think? Was it real? The Bellwitch? Or was it all just made up?
The million-dollar question. And I don't think there's an easy answer. But maybe that's what makes it so interesting, It sparks our curiosity, challenges what we think we know, makes us deal with the things we can't explain.
It reminds us that we don't have all the answers. And maybe that's okay. The Bellwitch story, true or not, it still fascinates us because it speaks to that part of us that wants to believe, that wants to know what's out there in the darkness.
It's a story that goes beyond just ghosts and hauntings. It's about belief, about the limits of what we know, about the things we can't explain.
Yeah, and it's that that pull it has, right? Like, you want to look away, but you can't help but be drawn in by it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It's like ingrained in us. I mean, think about it. For as long as we've been telling stories about the strange, the supernatural, the stuff we can't explain, the Bellwitch. It's like part of that tradition, that human need to make sense of things.
And the fact that we still don't really know, like, there's no answer that everyone agrees on, it just makes it even more intriguing.
Exactly, because sometimes isn't it better to not know? The searching, the wondering, that can be more fun than actually having the answer. With a case like this, it really makes you think, makes you weigh the evidence or the lack of it and come to your own conclusions.
Right. It's not about just believing everything you hear or dismissing it outright. It's about looking at the mystery and saying, what if?
Yes. And that's what I hope people take away from all of this, from this deep dive. The Bellwitch, it's not just about a ghost story, it's about belief, about how much we don't know, and about the mysteries that are still out there.
It reminds us to keep an open mind, to question things, and to approach the unknown with a sense of wonder and respect,
Well said. The Bellwitch, it might always be a mystery, a whisper in the dark, but sometimes those whispers, they stick with you. They remind you that there's a whole lot we just don't understand.
And you know what? Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe it's not about getting answers, but about learning to live with the unknown. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another episode, so until then, keep exploring.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe the channel. Please share your feedbacks and thoughts through comments.